recording.
Okay. All right. And why did they say the three countries? So they may eat, so that they may eat in each one until the last one is gone. Reb Shimon says they spoke of three countries only concerning Judea. The other countries are like the king's mountain, and all countries are as one in regard to olives and dates. One may eat on account of hefka, but not if guarded. Reb Yossi permits also if guarded. One may eat on account of vetching and on account of dufra, but not on account of autumn grapes. Reb Yehuda permits if they are ripened before the end of the summer. If one preserved three vegetables in one jar, Reb Eliezer says one may eat on account of the first. Reb Yeshua says also on account of the last. Rabbi Gamil says if a species is ended in the field, that species must be eliminated from the jar, and the halakha follows him. Reb Shimon says all vegetables are as one in regard to beer, but one may eat portalak until vetches have ended in the valley of Bet Netofa.
Okay. Mishna Vav, Hamela Ket Asrim Lachim. If somebody is gathering fresh vegetables, it's mutter to eat them. Ad sheyivash hamatok, until the fresh produce is dried out in the field, and that's the zman biur. The magabev biyavesh. Now, if we have something else, if somebody picks dried grasses, which he's mutter to eat them until the second rain falls, until the time of the second rain falls. Now, this is the geshem. That's the rain of the second season. Okay, we see actually in Maseches Tainus, which we happen to be learning at the same time now, is says that the rain falls at there are three different seasons, which our Tanaim have a machlokes about as to what exactly those times are. The So Rabbi Meir says that it's in Mar Cheshvan, it's the 3rd, the 7th, and the 20th. Those are the dates in Mar Cheshvan when people are referring to the first Revi'ah, the second Revi'ah, the third Revi'ah. Rabbi Yehuda says on the 7th, the 17th, and the 23rd. And Rabbi Yossi says the 17th, the 23rd, and Rosh Chodesh Kislev.
And we
So
follow.
okay, now it's not who's the halacha like? Look, usually when you have a machlokes like this, we follow Rabbi Yossi, although Rabbi Yossi doesn't make any reference to the 7th of Mar Cheshvan, and I'm pretty sure that 7th of Mar Cheshvan is a significant date by us because that's when we start saying Tent Matzar. Um, okay.
It would make sense that it would start then.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so I'm not. He doesn't say who's the halacha like, but the point being that from this time onwards, the dry produce needs beer because in any dry produce that's in the field is now been spoiled by the rain.
Right.
Um, so this is, I mean, I think we're talking about things that are normally had dry, like maybe herbs that are dried out, and so once those herbs in the field um, have been rained on, then that kind of ruins them. Um, yeah, okay,
I'm just gonna close the door.
sure. Ale kanim ale gefanim. So, for example, leaves of reeds and leaves of the grapevine. Adshe yishru me'avihen. So those leaves, if you take, apparently they're edible. The fresh leaves are edible. I'm not sure if they're humans or animal fodder, uh, um, but there's amount of beer is when in the field they start to fall off the plant.
Mm-hmm.
A megabev biavesh. If somebody is megabev, I think that's making plaster. Is that right? Megabev biavesh. But how does he translate the megabev biavesh?
Find where I'm looking. I don't wait because it's near. I don't. Why don't I see it?
Just read me the Mishnah from the beginning in English. Actually, you know what? I'll just open it up in my app.
In English, it just says, and one gathers fresh herbs until the moisture has dried
One
up.
gathers it's just until leaves of reeds and vines.
Leaves of reeds and of vines until they fall from their
Until
stem.
they fall from their stem. And if
one
one gathers dry, so is gathering dry, then until if he's gathering them dry, then that's until the rainfall
the
comes,
second rainfall.
and until the second rainfall comes. Now there was some comment over here about why, because the animals, because things that animals. Wait, is that this Mishnah? No, this is that is this Mishnah. Just quickly see, there was something in here that was about. Yeah. Okay, it must have been a later Mishnah that I'm thinking of this comment here. Okay. Anyway, let me carry on. Rabbi Akiva all of them until the second rainfall comes. So basically, he's saying that the Zman Biur applies to all of them. In the Yerushalmi, it changes the reading. It says it doesn't say the leaves of the reeds and the leaves of the vines, since the former are not subject to beer. What are leaves of reeds for? So in the Tosefta it says leaves of reeds, olive, sumac, and carob leaves are not subject to beer, since these kinds do not end in the field. And that's also Rambam's ruling.
They never end. They just keep. They're just there.
Yeah, they stay on. They never fall off.
Right.
Okay, Mishnah Zayin. So now, similarly, once we're talking about the Revi'ah Shniya, the Revi'ah Shniya is also used as a time period for measuring. Hamaskir bais lechaveiro ad geshamim. Let's say you write in the contract that this house is rented to you until the rain. Okay, that means ad sheteret Revi'ah Shniya. That means until the second Revi'ah. So depending on which Tana we rule, like you'll have a different date in there, but invariably going to be inside Marcheshvan. Hamudar hana mechavero ad geshamim. Somebody takes a neder of benefit from his friend until the geshamim. Doesn't specify a date. He just says until the geshamim. Ad sheteret Revi'ah Shniya. Again, that's until the second rainfall. That's when the rains are considered to have set in. Ad emasai aniyim nichnasim lepardesios. Until when can poor people go into the orchards? Ad sheteret Revi'ah Shniya. So they're allowed to go in to get the matanas la'aniyim until that second rainfall, because thereafter the ground becomes soft and marshy, and they start doing damage by walking through it. And from what point? This is the one that I was looking for. That when I was silent for a long time in the previous Mishnah, right? So from what time can you use straw and stubble from Sheviis produce as fuel? Okay, now why couldn't you use it? Because it's animal food. Okay, right. But once it's now this again is the dry stuff, and once it's dried out, then it's suitable. It's suitable for animal fodder, and therefore it would be wrong to burn it. However, once the rains have come, then anything that would have been available in the field for the animals is ruined. So you're not depriving the animals of this food anyway, because they wouldn't have had it in the field. So here it turns into a heter, the fact that it's unavailable in the field, and now he's allowed to burn it for his own personal use.
After the second rainfall, it's up in the air, right?
After the second rainfall, he's no longer depriving the animals in the field. So that's the idea of beer, is if you've gathered produce into your home and it's no longer available in the field, now by you holding onto it, you're depriving the animals and anyone else of being able to of the food which is no longer available in the field. And if you've got to take it out, but once if it's available in the field but it's ruined, then you're holding on to it is not because of a scarcity, but because it's just that the rain has ruined it, and now that produce is now suitable for burning. Interesting little turnaround there. Okay. Mishna Ches. Mishayulo Peros Sheviis Vigia Shasabir. So when somebody has Shemitah produce and it's in his home and now it's reached the time of beer. So for example, the one date that always stands out in my mind is that the Shasabir of grapes and wine is on Erev Pesach.
Right.
Okay. Mechalek Mazon Shalosh Sudos Lechol Echad Ve'echad. So he's entitled to set aside, whatever he needs for 3 meals for his household. Okay. So when it comes to Pesach, he's got 4 cups of wine to drink that night. So he can set aside actually quite a lot of wine for his household. But if he has leftover Shemitah wine, well, that's more than what he needs for the first day Yom Tov. Then he takes it. Then he takes aside what's left over. V'aniyam ochlin achar bir, and he takes them outside and he declares them hefker, and says Rabbi Yehuda, aniyam ochlin achar bir, and only poor people are allowed to take what he made hefker from bir. Aval lo ashirim, divrei Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yossi Omer echad aniyim ve'echad ashirim ochlin achar bir. He says no, there's nothing. Each one of them has got a drasha about the pasuk achlu evyonei amecha, and the poor people of your people will be able to eat. And so Rabbi Yehuda says, well, that means that poor people, and Rabbi Yossi's limud is evyonim v'gam amecha, both poor people and the rest of your nation. And the halacha does follow Rabbi Yossi. So if you have good friends, then you take your stuff outside and you mafkir it in front of them, and just trust that they're not going to take it from you because they know that you want to take it back.
It says here, as a commentary that says that from Kahate, I'm sure you have it there. A Mishnah discusses the manner in which the law of beer is fulfilled. As mentioned earlier, there are 3 views on this. The halakha follows adopted Rambam's view, which is shared by most authorities, and it's in Mishnah 2 of this chapter, and that's how you were supposed to interpret this Mishnah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You have that right? Okay. I mean, there's a lot more on it, but okay. All right.
Okay.
All right.
Next.
We are on
Vav Vav.
Vav. One may not bring in truma from beyond Eretz Yisrael into Eretz Yisrael. Red Shimon says, I heard expressly that one may bring in from Syria and that one may not bring in from beyond Eretz Yisrael. They laid down an important principle regarding the 7th year. Whatever is human food or cattle food or a species of dying matter which does not keep in the ground, the 7th year applies to it and its proceeds. Beer applies to it and its proceeds. And which are they? The leaves of the wild loaf, the leaves of mint, chicory, leeks, portulac, and milkweed. And cattle food, thorns of thistles, and of the species of dying matter, aftergrowth of woad and matter, and the 7th year applies to them and their proceeds, and beer applies to them and to their proceeds. Okay. When they say human food and cattle food, we're limiting it to cattle food. It wouldn't be
Any animal food.
Any animal food. Okay. All right. They laid down another general principle. Whatever is not human or cattle food or a species of dying matter and keeps in the ground, the 7th year applies to it and to its proceeds. Beer does not apply to it or its proceeds. And which are they? The roots of the wild loaf and the roots of the mint, the hart's tongue, the root of the milkweed and hazelwort, and of the species of dying matter. The matter and the sow bread. The 7th year applies to them and to their proceeds, and beer does not apply to them or to their proceeds. Rameya says beer applies to their proceeds until the new year, and they said to him, beer does not apply in them, much less to their proceeds. Okay.
Kilaim Heidalet.
You feeling better today?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
I slept in late actually. I'm pre-shachris.
Oh, okay. So I better let you. What time you have to leave soon? All right. A vine planted in a wine press or in a cleft is granted its tillage space, and one may sow the rest. Rabbi Yossi says if there are not 4 cubits, one may not bring seeds there, one may not sow in a house located in a vineyard. If one plants vegetables or retains them in a vineyard,
One may sow in a house inside
one
a
may
vineyard.
sow in a house.
Yes.
Right. If one plants vegetables or retains them in a vineyard, he renders forbidden 45 vines. When? If they are planted 4 or 5 apart. If they were planted 6 or 7 apart, he renders forbidden 16 cubits in every direction in a circle, not in a square. If one sees vegetables in a vineyard and declares, "I will pluck it when I get to it," it is permitted. "I will pluck it when I return," or if it increased by one by
No,
two.
not or. If he says if he passes it by and says I'll pick it later when I come back, now the clock starts ticking, and if it grows more than more than
200,
more than
right?
more than 0.5%, basically, it will that will render kilayim the whole vineyard.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, Tevel Yom. Dalad Vav. Ashkelonian grapnels that broke, but their hook remains intact, are tame. The pitchfork, the winnowing fork, the rake, and similarly a head comb that had one of their prongs removed and one replaced with a prong of metal, they are tame. Concerning all of these, Rabbi Yeshua said, the scribes have introduced a novel principle, and I cannot answer it. One who was separating truma from a pit, and he said, "This is truma on condition that it comes up without mishap." He means without the mishap of breaking or spilling, but not the mishap of tuma. Reb Shimon says he means even the mishap of tuma. If it breaks, it does not create meduma. Until where can it break and not create meduma? As long as it can roll and still reach the pit. Reb Yossi says even one who intended to stipulate but did not stipulate, if he breaks it, it does not create meduma, since this is the stipulation of the court.
Okay, one Mishnah from Yadayim.
A revius of water is the minimum amount for washing hands for one person, and even for two people. A half log is the amount for 3 or 4 people. From a log and more is the amount for 5, 10, or even for 100 people. Rabbi Yossi says, provided that there is no less than a revius for the last of them. One may add to the second waters, but one may not add to the first waters.
Okay.
That's it. Okay.
Kalim Kafrestes.
A porter's cushion is susceptible to be becoming tame with midrash tuma. A wine strainer is not subject to the tuma of a seat, and the hairnet of an old woman is susceptible to becoming tame with midrash tuma. The shirt of a harlot that was fashioned like netting is not susceptible to tuma. If one makes a garment out of a fishing net, it is tahor. But if he made it out of the net's bottom, it is tame. Rav Eliezer ben Yaakov says also if one made a garment out of a fishing net and he doubled it, it's tame. Concerning a hairnet, if one began to make it from its rim, it remains tahor until one finishes its bottom. If one began from its bottom, it remains tahor until one finishes its rim. Its frontlet is tame by itself. Its strings are tame because they are considered attached to it. If a hairnet becomes torn, it cannot contain the majority of the hair. It is tahor. The threads of a sheet, of a scarf, of hats, of a head shawl, their measure is 6 finger breadths. The threads of an undergarment.
Which means that if anything longer than 6 finger breadth is no longer considered part of the garment and is tahor.
The threads of an undergarment, their measure is 10 finger breadths, and the threads of an overcoat, of a veil, of a shirt, of a mantle, their measure is 3 finger breadths. The fringes of an old woman's cap, an Arab covering face, of kulkin, of a hollow belt, of a turban, and a partition, their measure is whatever length of their fingers may be.
Yes. Even if they're extremely long, they're considered a chibur to the rest of the garment.
Okay. We are in Sheviis.
Okay. Sheviis and Migzal.
The one who was robbed, how so? They testified about him that he entered his house to take a security from him without authorization. He says, "You took my utensils," and he replies, "I did not take them." He swears and receives payment. Rabbi Yehuda says,
so we're talking about here there's somebody who can swear, and normally people swear in order to avoid payments. Here's a person who can swear an oath and actually take a payment.
Mhm.
So that's what we said in the previous Mishnah. We gave a list of 4 cases where who can take an oath and then and use that oath to claim damages. The reason in this particular case is because the other person did something shalokad, and he walked into the walk into the house without permission. So therefore, he's in a vulnerable position. If the householder swears that something was taken from him, then he can exact payment from the person who broke in.
Rabbi Yehuda says only if there is a partial admission. How so? He says to him, "You took 2 utensils," while he replies, "I took only one." The one who
Okay,
was
and the
wounded.
halacha is not like Rabbi Yehuda.
The one who was wounded. How so? They testified about him that he entered his domain uninjured and emerged wounded. And he said to him, "You wounded me," while he says, "I did not wound you," and he swears and collects. It's Rabbi Yehuda says only if there is a partial admission. How so? He says to him, "You inflicted 2 wounds on me," while he replies, "I inflicted only one wound on you."
So you're saying consistently, Rabbi Yehuda doesn't accept this idea that you can take an oath and extract payment. He still wants there to be a bit of modeh b'miktsas in there in order to be able to extract. But we don't hold like him.
Okay. Dalit. The one whose opponent is not trusted to swear. How so? No matter whether he had falsely sworn an oath of testimony or an oath of deposit or a vain oath, or if one of them was a dice player and one who lends on interest, or they were pigeon flyers or Sheviis merchants, his opponent swears and collects. If they were both suspect, the oath returns to its place. These are the words of Rav Yossi, and Rav Meir says they divide it. Okay.
Tainus Gimel Aleph.
The order of the fast mentioned above applies only if the first rain was withheld. However, if plants change abnormally, we sound the shofar at once because of them. Similarly, if rains were interrupted between one rain and the next for 40 days, we sound the shofar at once because this represents a calamity of food shortage. If suitable rain fell for crops but did not fall for trees, or for trees but not for crops, for both but not for the filling of waterholes, ditches, or caves, we sound the shofar at once. Similarly, if no rains fell on a particular city, as it is stated, I cause it to rain on one city, and on one city I cause no rains to fall. One field was rained upon, and the city must fast, and sound the shofar, and all surrounding areas fast, but do not sound the shofar. Rabbi Akiva says they sound the shofar, but they do not fast.
Okay.
And when they talk about first, second, or third rains here, they're following the halakha from the other Mishnah.
Right. Well, actually, the other Mishnah is more interested in Tainus is the source of truth for things involving rain.
Oh, okay. Backwards. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Have a good day. Feel
You
well.
too.
Thank you, Charles.
Okay. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.